UFC welterweight champion Belal Muhammad just did another interview where he absolutely knocked it out of the park. Perfect answer after perfect answer. He humiliated Colby Covington and Sean Strickland, but not only those two. He humiliated Kamar Usman, and one that I did not expect, he absolutely humiliated Conor McGregor as well. And the best thing about it is, I know we call it trash talk, but it really wasn't trash talk. It was speaking nothing but facts. Everything he said, it wasn't some weird, contrived, manufactured WWE talk. It was facts. And we're going to take a look at a couple clips in a little bit. But also in this interview, which we're also going to take a look at, he shows and highlights the reason that all of us should want a champion like Belal Muhammad, because he's talking about, look, I want to build my legacy. I want to fight some of these young guys. I want to fight the boogeyman. I want to fight anyone and everyone. And Belal gets way too much hate when this is a guy who wants to be active, who wants to fight the best. He wants to defend his belt. He doesn't want to sit on the sidelines and wait 10 months to fight a guy who just talks trash and maybe sells more pay-per-views. And this interview highlights it perfectly. So I wanted to make a video about it because I've covered it in the past, but I'm going to cover it now. The fans are just hating too much. And I feel like the fan perception is starting to change. And if I can just have 1% of an impact, 2% of an impact, I'm happy to do it. So let's jump right into the interview. By the way, before we even get into the interview, this is from Submissive Radio. They interviewed Belal Muhammad. I'll link it down in the description. Please go check it out. I know I joke around and poke little jabs here and there, but at the end of the day, they are doing these interviews to support themselves. This is good content for me to cover and look at a few clips here and there. So go check out the full interview. I highly recommend it. I watched it, the entire thing, to get the timestamps for what we're going to look at. But this was an excellent interview from start to finish. The link will be in the description. We're going to start off with him talking about what does he want to achieve in his career. Now he's won the belt. What does he want to achieve next? He starts talking about GOAT status. And what he does start talking about is the names that he wants to add to his resume to be right up there with GSP.
So I want my name to be right there where there isn't a clear number 2 under GSP, but I'm chasing GSP. I want to be right there next to him. I don't even want to be chased. I don't want it to be like who's number 2 when you talk about the welterweight division. I want to be like, man, Bully and GSP were the best welterweights in that division to ever do it. And if I get ahead of them, I get ahead of them. But like, I want to be neck and neck with them. And I think with these young guys that are next, right? You got the Shavkats, the JDM, the Ian Garry, and then
you know how much I love that? When he's thinking about the people who were next in the welterweight division, he names JDM, Ian Garry, Shavkat. How refreshing is that? Someone at top of a division actually wanting to fight the up-and-coming contenders. Now, he does mention Usman as well here in a second, but it's just so refreshing. Imagine had Colby got the belt at UFC 296. He'd be trying to fight Conor, Dustin Poirier, probably Michael Chandler. Who knows? God knows who else. Probably CM Punk. He actually wants to fight the guys in the division that are going to elevate his name to GOAT status and get close to GSP.
And if I do get Usman, having those names on my resume, which is already a great resume, I don't think anybody could complain if I compare myself to him.
Facts. Because I think a lot of the hate that Belal was getting, especially in the lead up to the Leon fight, where they're like, he's delusional. He says he's going to dominate Leon. He says he's going to beat Leon. And, oh, he's delusional. Then he went out there and did it, and people are like, well, now I got to reevaluate my worldview because I thought he was crazy and actually went out there and did it. So now I got to give him the respect he deserves. So I think a lot of people might hear this and be like, oh, well, he's not going to do that. Well, he seems like he wants to. He may win. He may lose. We don't know. We'll have to see. That's in the future. But the fact he's even willing to be like, I want to fight all these tough guys. And he talks about it more in a little bit when he talks about Shavkat. The next clip I want to take a look at was absolutely hysterical. And it was a response to a question. I think I actually left a bit of the question here. How do you feel about Usman? Because Usman says he's better than you everywhere. And Belal just absolutely humiliates Usman and just absolutely dunks him on his bald spot. I know Kamar Usman's whole head is his bald spot. But if this was a fight, this trash talk was a fight, he dunked Kamar Usman right on his bald spot.
Has his sights set on you. Obviously, he wants another shot at the title. And he's kind of like respectfully building a feud between you guys. I know he was on the podcast talking about how he feels like he's better in every area than you. What have you made of this sort of feud that's building between you guys now?
I love it. It's better than I've even hyped up.
That you're the champion.
I mean, it's funny because he's not better at taking head kicks like than me, right?
He's not better than taking head kicks than me. He's talking about Leon head kicked me in our first fight. What did Leon do to you when he head kicked you? He KO'd you, flatlined him. And it gets even worse here.
We both fought the same guy recently, and I dominated Leon, and he lost to him twice. So you're not better than me everywhere. For me, like you said, I got respect for him. He was one of the best welterweights, obviously. He had a great run when he was a champion, but when I was calling his name when he was a champion, he was acting like I didn't exist. He was acting like there was nobody else in the division. He was doing.
Call him out. Call him out. Yeah, when you were talking there, I'm going to take rematches. I'm going to fight Colby again, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But it's just funny, the guy you lost to twice, I just dominated. And it was pretty quick span of time. It's not like there was years in between. And when you were champion and I was calling your name, and I hope, Belal, if the UFC somehow tries to shoehorn Kamar Usman into a title shot on a 3-fight losing streak, I hope Belal says, no, I'm not fighting him. That's not good for my legacy, which it is good for his legacy, but only if Kamar Usman gets a win or two between now and a title shot. Not 3-fight losing streak title shot. No, we can't. Absolutely not. Because even a Belal win, and I think Belal's smart enough to know this, a Belal win over Kamar Usman on a 3-fight losing streak does not look good. Let him get a win, which Belal talks about later, then you could fight him. But he continues to destroy Kamar Usman here.
Doing rematches with Masvidal, doing rematches with Colby, and it acted like there was nobody else. When you still had me and Luque were on big streaks when he was a champion. And he didn't give us the opportunity. He didn't say, let me fight the next best guy on the biggest streak. He said, let me get the obviously the money fight with Masvidal. But I don't think Masvidal earned it at that time.
Facts. And it really bothered me, particularly with Leon Edwards, the way Leon was in Belal's spot at one point. Long winning streak, deserving title contender, and nobody was giving him the time of day. And then he finally got the opportunity, won the belt, and then he tried to do the same thing to Belal Muhammad. And Belal's not going to do this to other guys. And he's asked point blank about this later in the interview, which we're going to see in a second. But love to hear it from Belal. Now, the next clip, because I know there's a lot of discussion of Usman right now. Usman's trying to talk his way into a title shot, which I pray does not happen. But in the next clip, he talks about Usman, the potential Usman fight, and how he would match up with Usman. And he also absolutely decimates Colby Covington, dumps Colby Covington on his bald spot as well. Listen to this.
Fine. I'm faster than him. I'm stronger than him.
So he's talking about Usman here.
I'm better at wrestling than him. So for his game plan to fight me, he would assume that it would be like a kickboxing match with Colby, where they just went back and forth. There was no wrestling in it. But I'll take Usman down, and then I'll beat him up on the feet. Colby sucks in striking, and Usman went to war with them, right? They were going back.
Facts. I've been saying that for the longest time. They're two garbage strikers. That's a little bit, getting a little crazy, but in the they're not the worst strikers ever. I mean, kind of are. In the welterweight division, they're horrible. But they had the wrestling to kind of cancel each other out. I think Belal would beat Kamar Usman, and I don't even have any doubts about that. I think his striking is far superior, and I don't think Usman's going to be able to grapple him. So Usman's going to have to catch him and KO him. But he points out right here, well, you're going life and death with Colby Covington in your prime on the feet, and Colby absolutely sucks on the feet, which is true.
Back and forth, and Colby literally sucks. So people look at those wars and think that was a great fight, and people sit there and sell their own narrative that this guy was one of the best welterweights. Look what he did to Colby. Colby was one of the best. But you just saw what Leon did to Colby. He embarrassed him. And you saw what I did to Leon. I embarrassed him. So what did that tell you where I am compared to Usman and Colby?
All facts. Look at Leon Colby. Colby has to be embarrassed of that performance at 296. Got, gifted a title shot and then went out there completely shit the bed. Didn't even bother to try to fight and got embarrassed by Leon Edwards and then pretended like he was robbed because the judges don't like his political affiliations. So good on Belal for calling this out. I personally don't want to see Kamar Usman fight unless he earns a title shot with probably 1 or 2 wins. One big win, maybe. We'll have to see the layout of the division at the time, but at least 2 big wins. At least 1 big win and potentially 2 big wins is what I meant to say there. Next clip we're going to take a look at is him kind of acknowledging that, because it seems like a lot of people have kind of been pushing, okay, maybe Kamar Usman's the guy because he's a former welterweight champion, and Belal says, look, he's going to have to really get a win here.
He has great boxing. He has knockout power. So
talking about JDM, by the way. He's talking about Usman fighting JDM.
I think it'll be a fun fight. But for Usman, like you said, he has to find that guy, right, that's on that streak. Mm-hmm. And 1 win will get him that title shot. 1 win will get him in the talks to be there. And for sure, JDM, I think, could be that guy.
Yeah, get 1 big win over somebody, you know, one of these young up-and-coming guys in the division, and then maybe we can talk about it. Okay, but right now, 3-fight losing streak, absolutely not. Now, in this next clip, I've seen a lot of people be critical of Belal saying this, and I have to agree, this is absolute facts from Belal, okay? The criticisms of Belal saying this are crazy, acting like he's ducking anyone, which he's not ducking anyone. But he's right. He says, look, there's no true number one contender right now. There's a lot of guys out there, but nobody's truly earned their shot. You look at the resume, this. You look at the resume, that. It's kind of debatable.
But Shavkat, his last one was against Wonder Boy. So there's not a man, Shavkat deserves it. He's next. He's undefeated, yeah. But there's also Ian Gary's undefeated, who I think he just beat a crazy puzzle and MVP. So there's not really like that clear number one contender. Even when he said, you know, you didn't fight in 14 months, but I had a number one contender fight against Gilbert Burns, and I fought that fight on 3 weeks' notice.
And he was on a long winning streak against all top 10 ranked guys. So I'm not going to pull up the exchange where Shavkat was saying, well, you sat out 14 months for your title shot. Well, look at his resume. He had to earn that shot. Short notice against Gilbert Burns. Shavkat beat Wonderboy. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to see Belal Shavkat. And Belal actually wants Shavkat. He talks about it here in a little bit. But it's an accurate assessment to say there's no true bona fide number one contender in the welterweight division right now. That is accurate.
And then I waited as backup for Colby and Leon. So don't compare your story to me, that you just sat out for 14 months off of, you know, finishing Wonder Boy, and then you didn't do nothing else after that. So obviously I'm going to be the type. I'm not a champion. I'm not going to sit out and be like, no, I want these guys to fight and me not.
Does anybody else love hearing that? Oh, I'm not going to be the type that sit out and say, oh, these guys should fight each other. Yeah, I absolutely love hearing that. Now, I would love if they're going to save Belal for like a January, February Saudi Arabia pay-per-view, I would love to see two of these guys fight, and then they would still have enough time to turn around. It's only September. Obviously, the fight would have to get booked in the next month or so. They could turn around and earn that number one contender spot and then fight Belal in Saudi Arabia in January, February, depending on how the timeline played out. I would love to personally see that, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I want to fight. I want to fight these tough tests. I want to fight these guys, but it's going to be on my timeline now. I said December works for me.
So there were some rumors. Shavkat said apparently he was offered a fight at 307, which is a month from now, which would have been 70 days from the time he won the belt. I don't know if they offered that to Belal or not. That is crazy and ridiculous of the UFC to offer him that. Because 70 days, he just fought, won the belt, 5-round fight, and you're going to offer him a fight 70 days later. That just goes to show you're trying to kind of tip the scales and borderline rig fights. Belal didn't speak to that necessarily here. You know, he said obviously he wouldn't fight that short notice, but he didn't say if he was offered it. But if he was, that's crazy the UFC even offered him that. You know, and I guess they can do whatever they want. They can offer whatever they want. You don't have to take it. But to try to offer that quick turnaround. But I love that Belal wants to stay active. He doesn't want to sit out and wait around for 10, 12 months, waiting for whoever else to fight. You know, look at Leon's title reign. You know, I know he had the Usman rematch. What was that? You know, 6, 7 months later, not too bad. But then, you know, after that, what do we have? We had to wait 9 months for a Colby Covington fight. The welterweight division felt like it was stalled forever. Now Belal has the belt. Hopefully this welterweight division starts getting kick-started again like it was kind of under Kamar Usman where he was being super active. Next clip we're going to take a look at is one of my favorite clips of this entire interview. Who does Belal want next? Who does Belal want next? He answers it perfectly.
I think it'd just be, for me, if Usman didn't lose to Hamza and take that fight, but people forget it was a short notice fight, that would be the fight because he only lost to Leon. But now he lost 3 in a row. I think he would need another win. So for me now, it's, all right, Shavkat's the boogeyman that they all think is unbeatable. And now I'm getting freaking 1,000 comments on my Instagram page anytime I post anything of the Shavkatians. So
that's the first time I've heard that. But yeah, everyone's saying Shavkat's the boogeyman. I want Shavkat. Is that not so refreshing to hear? This is the exact type of champion we need. Belal Muhammad made welterweight great again. He dunked Leon Edwards on his bald spot and made welterweight great again. And it's crazy. Everything he's saying is just facts, man. It is just facts over and over and over again. And I love the fact that he's willing to take on Shavkat, who's everyone saying, oh, he can beat you, he can beat you, he can beat you. And Belal wants to go out there and prove those people wrong.
Yeah, I think for me, it would be another one of those tests to prove people wrong, to shut them up, right? My last 5 or 6 fights, everybody thought I was going to get killed. They thought I was going to lose. So he's another guy where I go out there and I smash him. What is your excuse going to be? If I go out there and I beat Usman, it's like, well, he's on a 3-fight losing streak. He's done. He has no knees.
Facts. And exactly why I don't think the UFC is going to offer Usman a welterweight title fight, but there's a chance they could. They've been giving out undeserved title shots left and right, and Usman was a draw in the UFC welterweight division, unlike Colby Covington, who sells under 400,000 pay-per-view buys. But, you know, even if he were to take that Usman fight, okay, Usman's a former welterweight champion, one of the greats in the welterweight division, but right now it just doesn't do anything. If you beat Kamar Usman, they're going to say, oh, well, he's a scrub, he's washed up. You beat Shavkat, they might try to play revisionist history and say Shavkat only beat Wonderboy and blah, blah. But Shavkat's a straight-up killer, and I think it means a lot for Belal to turn Shavkat back, potentially, in his first title defense.
You know, you just beat a bum. But if I go out there and I beat Shavkat, they're going to be like, what? Nothing. He was undefeated. He has all finishes. So now that's the guy that I'm putting my sights on.
Belal's one of the smartest fighters on the UFC roster. He acknowledges everything perfectly. He knows exactly what's going on. He's in touch with the MMA community. Sometimes I think he might be watching the videos because some things he's saying, I'm like, where did he get that from? Now, not that specifically, but and in the rest of the interview, we're going to look at 2 more clips. I mean, this is just crazy. Actually, we're going to look at like one longer clip, but he absolutely destroys Sean Strickland, absolutely destroys Conor McGregor as well. It was hilarious to watch. Hilarious to watch. He's asked about a Sean Strickland DDP rematch, and he goes off about Sean Strickland, and everything he's saying is facts. We got to get Belal on the channel, boys, because I can't agree with him anymore. Throughout this interview, everything he said was facts, but let's listen.
Yeah, I think DDP beats him. I think that Sean's one of those guys that I think when you fight him once, you figure out his style, right? Because he's awkward. He's weird with his style. And even when I rewatched that DDP fight like twice or 3 times, and DDP was hitting him with some power shots and some weird, and you know, he was hurting Sean in some weird spots. And I think that he could have did some more with some of those spots, especially even when he took him down. I think that Sean he has this this aura about him that people think he's crazy because he talks crazy and he says he's going to go to war and this and that. And then he goes in there and he just throws 100 teep kicks at you. And then
Facts. All Sean Strickland does is talk about going to war, and then he goes out there and does not go to war. He does not bleed for you guys. He's not ready to die in there. It's teeps and jabs, and Belal calls that out.
He jabs and he moves away. It's not the war that you think it's going to be. I think that now once you fight him once, then you realize that. So now you start picking it up on him. And I think that DDP could end up freaking breaking him in this fight.
By the way, I think that's accurate analysis. I think that's accurate. I think DDP does beat Strickland in a rematch. Also, yes, Strickland mentally broken, messaging, DMing DDP, begging for forgiveness and saying, please don't talk about my daddy issues anymore. And then publicly saying, oh, I threatened DDP and that's why I stopped. But then DDP exposed him because he's smart as well. Hilarious and accurate analysis. But there goes on a little bit more here.
Yeah, wow. Well, what do you think you and Sean would look like if Sean was the champion? What do you look like at middleweight against him, Eric?
By the way, I want to highlight this. Oh, Belal, how do you think you'll do against Strickland? Because I know a lot of people are going to call, oh, Bilal's delusional. I don't think he is here.
Oh, I slap him around. I literally go in there and I slap him around. Sean, when I think of tough fights, Sean's not one of them. I think it would be an easy fight for me. He beats a lot of guys with cardio. I have better cardio than him. He beats a lot of guys with jabs. I have better boxing than him. He beats guys with teeps. But those guys, they fight him a certain way. They don't fight him smart. Costa backed up the whole time, and then he just took those teep kicks. Even with Adesanya, he backed up the whole time for the most part. And then even in that fight, it wasn't that great of a fight, right? It was Sean. If Sean never landed that cross, he could have lost a boring decision.
Facts. People act like Sean dominated Adesanya. It was a boring, like, clear win for Strickland. But like when we're going to the scorecards, it's like, oh, maybe the judges might rob him. You know what I mean? Because there was nothing going on. Same thing with the Costa fight. People told me I'm crazy. Oh, I thought Costa could have won. Nothing happened. Nothing was happening. And by the way, I think Belal is accurate in saying that he could beat up Sean Strickland. I'm not saying it would be easy. I'm not saying you go out there and dominate him. I haven't put that much thought into it. I would genuinely, if Belal took the time to put on weight, to go up to middleweight, I think he would beat Sean Strickland. I would pick him to beat Sean Strickland. People said, Joey, you're just a Belal, rider or whatever. You to Belal is Dana White to John Jones. Yeah, well, how did that work out against Leon Edwards? because people told me the same thing when I picked him to dominate Leon Edwards and defeat Leon Edwards. How did that work out? So I actually think Belal could beat Sean Strickland. I would love to see that fight in the future. And he even said, I don't think it's in this clip, I think he said a little bit earlier that you guys didn't say. He said, look, I'd fight Sean belt or no belt. I'd fight him, and I'd win that fight.
Even with his coach in his corner telling him, like, Sean, you're about to lose a boring decision, even though he landed that cross. So I think people just think about his last 10 seconds of every fight, and he goes crazy, and people are like, oh, man, Sean is wild, man, and he says wild things. But he fights safe, and he fights to not get hit, and he fights to not lose. So I think I go in there and I break him with pressure, and I'll make it look easy.
By the way, people are probably like, well, Belal's boring. If you think that Belal Muhammad's fighting style is even in the same universe in terms of quote-unquote boring compared to Sean Strickland, you were just delusional and completely biased, because that's not even remotely close. Sean Strickland does absolutely nothing the entire fight. Belal presses forward, beats guys up with combinations, dunks them on their bald spot, and absolutely dominates them. Are they Yuri Prohaska style fights? No, they're not. But they are very entertaining fights. There hasn't been a fight. Let me put it this way. Belal Muhammad's win over Leon Edwards was more exciting than Sean Strickland's entire career. Okay? That's a bit of an exaggeration, but you get my point. Now, the last part we're going to listen to is him asked about Conor McGregor, and his answer was just absolutely perfect here. And he absolutely decimated Conor McGregor with facts. And I'm so glad he gave the answer that he did, because this is something that I've been saying for a long time. And it's just so true. But let's listen to him say it.
Last fan question. This one's from Real Deal O'Neill. What are your thoughts on Conor
Shout out Real Deal O'Neill.
McGregor? Do you think there's a path for him to fight you for the belt if he does beat Michael Chandler and looks good at 170?
By the way, that reminds me of Ariel Helwani talking to Leon Edwards in an interview before he lost the belt. Yeah, I think Conor McGregor would do a lot for your legacy. It's fucking delusional. And thank God Belal knows that. Beating Conor McGregor at this stage in his career is just, it's worth nothing other than a payday.
I don't think you'll look good at one side. The dude doesn't look good in life right now. He looks like he's coked out. He looks like he's on drugs.
Facts. Hanging out with midgets, carrying them over his shoulder, little people, whatever you want to call them. Drinking, looking drugged out every single time we see him in public. He's supposed to look good at 170 and potentially fight for a welterweight title. In what world? I don't even know. This fan question, they should have just weeded this right out. It's a stupid question. But thank God Belal's not groveling for some imaginary payday against McGregor.
If he beats Michael Chandler, like, I would even let him skip the line, because, like I said, there's...
By the way, in case you misunderstood that, I wouldn't even let him skip the line. He wouldn't let Conor McGregor skip the line to fight for his belt, because that's beneath him. And also, he'd have to sit out for 3 years like Chandler is.
There's guys that work for it. There's guys that got here. And then even with the last fight with Colby skipping the line for Leon, I'm like, I would never do that, because there's guys that are actually putting the work in. And
imagine Shavkat wins another fight. Let's say he fights JDM, wins another fight. And then imagine the possibility of undefeated all finishes Shavkat coming off of 2 top 10 wins, getting skipped over for Conor McGregor, who has more rape accusations than wins over the last 8 years. Imagine that. That'd be ridiculous. Luckily, Belal Muhammad says, I want to fight deserving contenders. I don't want to fight a cokehead in Conor McGregor. That's not what I want to do. He can go hang out at Sturgis with midgets, okay? That's what he can go do. Meanwhile, I'll be fighting the boogeyman in Shavkat Rakhmonov or JDM or Ian Machado Garry or any of those guys. I'm not letting Conor skip the line.
And for legacy-wise, obviously I would want to slap Conor around. But, yeah, there would be too much for it not to happen, right? It took him this long to fight this fight. It took him this long to make this fight happen with Chandler. So for them to even think that, Conor's going to fight for the welterweight belt, then I got to sit here and wait 2 years? No, it's not going to happen. I'll give it to the guys that are actually fighting, guys that are actually putting the work in.
I'll give it to the guys who are actually fighting and putting the work in. Thank you, Belal Muhammad. This is the exact champion we want. We should all want. I want, damn sure.
And guys that deserve it. Conor doesn't deserve it. I hope he fights Chandler, because I feel bad for Chandler.
Don't you dare disrespect Chandler by feeling bad for him, Belal. Okay? He only left his family in January with one dude on his mind. It's almost the end of the year, and He's still thinking about it, but don't you dare disrespect Chandler by feeling bad for him.
Chandler waited this long for it, so I hope that fight actually happens. But honestly, I don't think it happens.
Yeah, I don't think it happens either, Belal. It sounds interesting. Sounds like it makes a whole lot of sense for December. Sounds like it makes a whole lot of sense for December, but I don't think it's happening either. Belal on every single point, just spitting facts, embarrassing Colby, embarrassing Strickland. Strickland's talking about going to war. He never been to war in his entire life. Okay? Kamar Usman, I'm better than Belal. Well, not better at taking head kicks. He damn sure ain't better at taking head kicks, and I just dominated a guy that beat him twice. Belal Muhammad needs a bigger fan base, okay? The way he talks is just perfect. He's not manufacturing some WWE character. I absolutely love it. I wanted to highlight it in this interview. Again, I will link the full interview down in the description. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.